by far. 4GR, thumbs up. Thumbs up to 4GR. 4GR, thumbs up.
For 9 decades, 4GR has been an iconic radio station, providing news, information and entertainment to countless listeners right throughout the Darling Downs region. From humble beginnings, 4GR has become a major media brand that is respected and recognised throughout Toowoomba and the Downs. Its signal is broadcast hundreds of kilometres in all directions from the Toowoomba studios and has a potential listening audience of over 250,000 people. But where did it all start? Well, to answer that question, we have to go all the way back to the 1920s and tell the story of the remarkable creator of 4GR, Edward Irwin Gold. In 1920, Edward Gold made a radio transmitter, which he set up in the lounge room of his home on the corner of Lilly and Lindsay Streets, which is located diagonally opposite from where the Cobb & Co Museum is now located. He began an amateur radio station in 1922 with the call sign 4EG, broadcasting half-hour transmissions to listeners in Eastern Australia and New Zealand between 6:45 and 7:15 p.m. This was extended to 10 p.m. nightly on Saturday and Sunday until a full service was offered and Mr. Gold secured a commercial licence in 1925 for a station with the call sign 4GR, and was in fact the first commercial station licensed in Queensland. The official opening of the Gold Radio Electric Broadcasting Service was on the 16th of August 1925 and was performed by the then Toowoomba Mayor, Alderman J.D. Annand. The first broadcast by 4GR was a church service from St Stephen's Presbyterian Church, with a sermon delivered by preacher the Reverend John Armour and singing by the church choir and congregation also being transmitted. During the broadcast, reports came in throughout the country on how well the signal had been received, with even requests for musical numbers, including The Last Post from a Gentleman in Oakey. 4GR's transmitting masts have also had a colourful history, with the original 173-foot transmitting mast at Drayton blown down in a cyclone in October 1936. A new 220-foot tubular mast was erected in September 1938 and served until the 7th of November 1966, when it was struck and destroyed by a crop-spraying aircraft. The pilot, however, luckily escaped, and a temporary 100-foot mast was hastily erected, getting 4GR back on air the very next day. Ted Gold died in 1961, aged 66, and was a pioneer in radio broadcasting in this country. He was part of the Golden Age, a term phrased about the era of radio history from 1920 to 1929, when 66 experimental radio stations were launched in Queensland. 90 years of being on air has required a team of dedicated staff and technicians working together to bring listeners a variety of programming. On-air announcers are the voices the public hear and are considered the face of the brand. 4GR has been a breeding ground for many iconic Queensland media personalities like the legendary Frank Warwick and many others. Working around the clock, announcers and producers are on station during broadcasts, talking to listeners and informing them of current events. But in one case, a listener took matters into his own hands to broadcast a playlist of his choice.
It was an interesting story about a guy called Murray Shoring, who replaced me as the Midnight to Dawn announcer. And my understanding was that it was about a month after I left that the then program manager of the station, John Williams, was driving back from Brisbane and was listening to 4GR and heard a lot of songs that didn't actually sit within the playlist. Now, John found that most unusual, and particularly from the fact that Murray Shoring was on air, because Murray was a stickler for format and punctuality. John became very, very concerned about this, concerned to the point where he decided to ring the police, because the songs were of a certain genre and they were certainly not songs that were in the 4GR playlist back then. John arrived, I believe, at the same time that the police did. They walked into the studio to find a very disgruntled listener with a shotgun, who'd told Murray Shoring that he didn't like the music that he was playing and he wanted to choose his own. The police disarmed the person. Murray had, I believe, a couple of weeks off to get over that, but was always most hesitant about answering the back door in the building.
Throughout the decades, 4GR has entertained and informed listeners on the Downs and beyond, and has been a trusted broadcaster, especially during weather events and times of natural disasters.
Back in '81, when I first started here, we had 32 staff, I think. We had our own news department, we had our own sports department, and 4GR was the focus of cancellations, any problems with anything. So sometimes even if there are floods or whatever, we would actually have somebody in on a Saturday morning when all the cancellations were going on the desk, answering all the phone calls, as well as the on-air announcer. So we had people would ring up 4GR specifically before anything else, before SES or anybody, often with information. And so we were the focus on what was being cancelled, what was going on totally in the community back then.
4GR has had a time-honoured tradition when it comes to supporting the community, charities, fundraising events and appeals.
4GR received a reputation as your information station, and that was really because of all the extra work that was put into developing a community organisation that wanted to be part of what 4GR was. The organisations knew that as soon as they wanted some information put out there in the general public, then they would know that 4GR was the place to come, and therefore, of course, the listeners then understood that if they wanted to know what was going on in the community, then that they would listen into 4GR, of course.
I feel really privileged to be the General Manager of 4GR. In fact, when I came to the market, I had no idea of the heritage of 4GR, I had no idea of the history, and I had no idea of the place that 4GR has in the hearts and minds of so many people in this region. And I've taken on the role, and there's been so many good people in the role before me. You know, people like Russ Wilson was in the role for 35 years. You know, Bob Stevenson, Nick Irby, there was Ted Gold, there's Doug Gold, there's even David Greenwood was here. And so many people have actually started their career at 4GR, so many people. People like Frank Warwick, who would have thought, came from 4GR. People like Guy Dobson as well, he started at 4GR. And of course, none of this would be possible, 4GR would not be possible without the support of our advertisers. And so thank you to our advertisers, our current advertisers, I know a lot of you will be here tonight, and our past advertisers as well, who have kept the doors open for the last 90 years. So thank you.
.864 4GR, still #1.
So there you have it, a snapshot of 4GR's colourful history. It's been a long journey, but it couldn't be possible without the loyal, dedicated staff over the decades of radio station 4GR.
When I was a kid driving girls around, I fell in love to that friendly sound. And when I get old and grey, I know I want to listen to the radio.